Now, two men at the center of the impeachment probe of President Bill Clinton, Republican Trent Lott and Democrat Tom Daschle, writing an op-ed today saying that the Senate can indeed hold a fair impeachment trial this time around. Can it? Let's ask Inez Stepman from the Independent Women's Forum, Democratic strategist David Bernstein, and the Wall Street Journal's James Freeman. James, what do you think?
Well, I don't know what the senators intended, but I think that whole piece is basically an implicit rebuke of the House process. They're talking about how they came together and settled on a big, long, open inquiry, how they looked at the traditions, the precedents, and how they came to a bipartisan agreement, not on the activity of Bill Clinton, but on how the process ought to run. And it was basically the opposite of what we're seeing in the House right now.
David, I think it feels that this is something that Nancy Pelosi herself was pulled into, kicking and screaming. She finally said, okay, let's go for it after a harsh weekend of AOC tweets. And now they're in the midst of something and not quite sure how to roll it out.
Well, I would slightly disagree with that, because I think the way this is proceeding is actually, frankly, exactly what people have asked for. The Democrats are holding a series of hearings to understand the facts and deciding whether or not to bring impeachment articles.
So would you call that a fishing expedition?
It's a fact-finding mission. It's an investigation. It's the beginning. And I think, it's funny because the Republicans are saying we should hold a vote, but earlier this year, Republicans criticized Democrats for not looking at the evidence. Now we're looking at the evidence and saying after we find the evidence, we'll hold the vote or not hold the vote on the basis of what evidence is found. And then there will be public hearings. I think Republicans are being a little bit chomping at the bit here on this, because these have been going on for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, just to find a little bit of information and then actually draft articles of impeachment, which will be voted on. That would be the natural step and includes public hearings. It's a process, and the Republicans don't want to be involved in the process.
Are you buying that?
No, not really. I mean, look, this is a political process, right? This is not a legal trial, not even on the Senate level. This is a political process, and that means that it's a battle in the court of public opinion. And right now, having these things mostly being behind closed doors, but having them be in the headlines day after day after day with selective leaks that are only sort of showing the things that are in the worst light for the president. Look, the president's supporters are going to want to hear from these folks actually being questioned, especially when they are members of the administrative state and what the president calls the deep state, right? And you see the New York Times and others showing these folks as totally neutral, apolitical. That's often not true. 95% of political donations in 2016 from federal employees went to Hillary Clinton. So they want to see these folks cross-examined. They want to see them out in the public. This is a traumatic thing, impeaching a president, and the public has a right to see this evidence and to make up their mind.
Let me bring James in, because it feels that a lot of this is just sort of a campaign against President Trump, the image of President Trump more than anything else. Where it goes from here, if every single day the drip, drip, drip is something negative, another bombshell from another anonymous source or someone behind closed doors, it's tough. The narrative is certainly against President Trump, and that's building up without any counter.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of bombshells. I don't know where the
Well, I'm just saying that's the headline.
In the sense of, like, what Adam Schiff is searching for is evidence that the president unduly pressured the Ukrainian government to examine Biden activities, which the Bidens have promised never to do again. So we got the Burisma story, the shady Ukrainian deal. Now NBC News reporting today on Hunter Biden's work in Romania with a land deal over there. Is Hunter Biden now going to tell us he's an expert on Romanian real estate law and development deals? So these I think most people would look at this and say, that should have been examined. And we could probably argue about the correct way to do it, but I don't see how you get an impeachment out of this.
When President Trump released the transcripts, it felt like it changed the narrative. And again, this is where it feels like the Democrats have become more secretive about the process, but more desperate as well. Again, we don't hear things except leaks and innuendo.
But that's what, as Inez pointed out, it's a political process. It's not a legal process. The president isn't entitled to anything. And that's what was so offensive about what the congressman had to say. They're not entitled to representation. In the past, they have given that representation. They are entitled to that in the trial in the Senate, but not in the House. The House rules are actually very clear on this matter. The rules may be unfortunate and inconvenient for Republicans, but they are the rules.
They're more than just inconvenient, and they're inconvenient for the American people. As I said, I mean, I think that's the important factor here, is that, again, this is a traumatic thing for a country. This is only the third time we've gone through this in history, and fourth if you count Nixon, who was going to be impeached but then resigned, right? It's a traumatic thing for the country, and I think it's really important, just like with the Mueller process, right, that the public has access to the information that they can decide for themselves, because we see the public doesn't trust the press on this. They don't trust Congress. They don't even trust the president. They really don't trust any of the institutions that are at the center of this. They're all underwater in public approval. And so I think the American people have a right to look at that evidence directly, like the transcript, but whatever else, decide for themselves. They don't trust other people's opinions on this.
Inez, James, David, thank you all very much.
Thanks, Charles.
Got to leave it there.